Hello everyone! I am back! My name is Anna Mardal. This is another Let's Play of Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright. Did you miss me? I missed me. I've been stuck in bed with a bad back. My back flared up. The heat usually actually adversely affects me, and I don't know about you guys from where you are, but I'm in Texas, and even though it's October, it is still very, very hot here. So, yeah, global warming is not treating me well. I'm not gonna lie about that. But I am sitting up. I am sitting up instead of lying down. That's a big victory. And we're playing some more Phoenix Wright. I did go back and kind of briefly rewatch some highlights of my last videos on this topic because we've had a couple of pauses. And so here's what I do remember. Mask to Mask was caught on tape stealing Maya's urn. At the same time, somebody was being killed at a security company. My belief is that the security company... my belief is that Ron is Mask to Mask and was, even since the first heist, that Ace Attorney Luke Atme figured out it was Ron and started using him to be a better Mask to Mask. Like, he was sending him, plans and blueprints and stuff. Someone at the security company started blackmailing Luke Atme, so Luke killed them and framed the death on Ron. Ron then tried to confess to being Mask to Mask, hoping that would give him an alibi for the murder. And what actually happened is that we ended up accusing Luke, who was delighted at being given an alibi, and let us convict him. I think that's what's happening. I'm not sure. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not sure. But I think that is what's happening. So, I hope that's the case, because it means that Desi is not guilty of anything. I was examining my feelings and why this, because the other Phoenix Wright episodes actually kind of seized me to the point where it was like I couldn't stop playing. And this one has been difficult for me to continue, not just because of all the health stuff. I think part of it is the health stuff, won't lie. But I do think part of it is, this one's been kind of twisty, turny, confusey. I really don't want Desiree to be the villain. It seems like the women often are, and I really don't want that. So, let me see. Where... No, not Farewell My Turnabout. Where are we? 924 would be the most recent save. Yeah, 4-1, the trial. So here we go. And I'm going to apologize in advance if my voices are off from what they were, because... Hey, Nick! What is it this time? You won't believe how many people are here for the trial! Well, it is a murder case. What are you talking about? They're here for the trial next door! Next door? Why don't you know this, Nick? They're having Detective Atme's trial today. Detective Atme? They say they're going to try him as Mask to Mask. Already? That was fast. How could they possibly have any evidence against him? I'd love to see Mask to Mask's trial. I know. I don't know who that was. By the way, where's Pearls? Oh, she went back home. She said she can't neglect her training anymore. I know you don't like me. Pearls has really gotten into her training lately, huh? Yeah, ever since that incident last year. Please, don't ignore me! Oh, Mr. Delight! Good morning! No one likes me. No one would notice me, even if I killed someone. Come on, don't be silly. Wait a second. You don't mean you're the murderer? No, I'm just a poor thief. No, wait, that's not right. A thief can't really be poor. Now let's see. According to Mr. Delight, from his second crime on, he was following a bunch of set plans. Plans that someone had been sending to help him commit the heists. Do you really think there's a connection between the thief and the murder, Nick? It's possible, but today's trial is a race against the clock. Huh? How come? Let's just take our time like always. I'm afraid that's not an option. Not gonna tell us why? Okay. I guess the problem is that if Atme is declared guilty of stealing last night, then yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. We'll figure it out. Court is now in session for the trial of Mr. Ron Delight. The defense is ready, Your Honor. You're ready. Preparation is the last refuge of the weak. What? No? And then that's literally the opposite of what you said last time anyway. Okay, settle down, everyone. Let's begin with your opening statement, Mr. Godot. He's got the judge in the palm of his hand, yet again. What the fuck? Ron Delight is simply too young to be sent to war. That's all. I'm afraid I have no idea what that means, Mr. Godot. Then you need to get out more, Your Honor. I don't understand it either! Although I probably do need to get out more. Life is war. But that is exactly why you must be more precise in your wording. Okay? That's all my statement means. You understand now, right? Yes. Well then, let me briefly summarize the details of this case. Seriously, like, the heck? Wow, the judge is taking charge, like he knows what's going on for a change. The victim is Kane Bullard, CEO of KB Security. It is nice to see him taking charge. His body was found in a safe at approximately 9 a.m. on the morning of the 13th. However, the time of death was estimated as 1 a.m. of the previous day. And that's when our little lost kitten dropped the ball. That little lost kitten is, of course, the defendant. Very well, Mr. Godot. Please call your first witness. I never drink more than 17 cups of coffee during any given trial. This is supposed to be your first trial. What? I'm so confused. So, is he new, or is he supposed to be someone that we've faced before that I just don't recognize? But who on earth could he possibly be? I truly don't know. It can't be Manfred.
But the first one is always the best. Mr. Godot, your witness. Okay then. Let's hear what the defendant, Mr. Rondelite, has to say for himself. The defendant? Well, Mr. Wright, does the defense have any objections? It may be a bit of a disadvantage having the defendant testify, but...
That's true, we don't usually have the defendant testify. I remember when Mia was defending me. She allowed me to testify so she could do the cross-examination herself. She put a lot of trust in me back then. We have no objections, Your Honor. The defense will allow Mr. Delight to testify.
Huh. You've got guts, Wright. All right then, Mr. Rondelite, please take the stand. You did it, didn't you?
Yes. What? No. That's not true. Jesus. This fucking child. I'm sorry. Yes. Oh, no, not true. He's gonna be like, Mr. Godot outwitted me with his cleverness. And it's like, no, child, you're just not cut out for anything, really. He's such a baby.
For a moment there, I thought we'd set the record for shortest trial ever.
Well, Mr. Delight already looks plenty guilty with that face he's making. And once he opens his big mouth, he'll probably put the last nail in his own coffin.
Huh. Very well. Now then, can you tell me something? If you didn't kill Bullard, why did you go to KB Security?
Well, that's kind of hard to say. Boy, I wish I could go home.
Now then, let's hear some testimony about what happened.
Okay, here we go. My visit to KB Security. That evening, around 1 p.m., I went to see Mr. Bullard in his office at KB Security. The blackmail letter I got ordered me to go there. I had been working for KB Security until a year ago, so I knew where his office was.
1 a.m., the exact time the murder took place. The weak get washed away by the tides of fate. The strong drink it up. Huh. It's bitter today, too. Just like my destiny.
You'd never know that from the way he's chucking it down.
Mr. Wright, your cross-examination, if you please. There wasn't really much to cross-examine, was there? Okay.
Whoever sent him the blackmail letter must have been setting him up for murder. So let's hear more about that. It ordered you there. It was the first time I'd gotten a blackmail letter that ordered me to go somewhere.
Does that mean you've gotten other blackmail letters then?
Oh, of course. They'd say things like, steal this. Why don't you save those for later, Mr. Delight? Please don't say anything more.
Okay, I feel like that was important.
Now what should I do? Yeah, I think we need to hear more about it. What did the blackmail letter in question say? It said to bring $50,000.
Money, eh? A perfect motive for committing murder.
Oh, but wait! I never intended to pay that money anyway.
Oh, is that right?
I feel like I'm still hearing... Do I have a Discord window open somewhere? I feel like I'm still hearing a little boop 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 boop. I'm not... My hearing isn't... No, they've all been closed. Why am I hearing boop boops? Okay. Well... I'll just close everything just to be sure. Goodbye, Tab.
Oh, is that right?
After all, he had nothing to hold over my head. I had nothing to be afraid of.
Wait, really? An important point indeed. I don't know if I agree with that, but okay. Witness, let's have that added to your testimony.
Yes, sir.
Huh. Muddy mudskipper in outer space has a better chance of surviving than I do. You're fine, honey.
You've got me here.
I don't really want to...
press on that, but... Let's try this one. I've been working for KB Security until a year ago, so maybe the office was. You used to be a security chief for KB Security, right? Yes, that's right.
A security chief? You? Yeah, I'm having a lot of trouble with that too. And yet, a year ago you were fired without notice. Revenge for an old grudge. A perfect motive for murder, wouldn't you say?
This isn't good. Maybe I should change the subject? Life after being fired. Why he was fired.
Why was he fired? Mr. Delight, please tell us why you were fired from your job.
Well,
The world is filled with those who have said, I wish I'd never asked that. Okay, then I take it back. Defendant, please answer the question.
well, I needed money.
You needed money?
Well, you see, Desi loves to spend it. It's kind of her hobby. I wish... Couldn't they have given them, like, literally any other reason besides, you know, a wife that is a profligate shopper? Like, I don't know, medical bills or something? Like, it just... Okay. Not exactly the best hobby in the world, huh, Nick? My salary wasn't nearly enough, so I stole data from the company.
Oh, that's not good.
Come again? KB Security has a lot of security info on all sorts of companies. And since I was a security team chief...
You stole some data and sold it.
I think we screwed up. Mr. Bullard found out, and I was fired immediately. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have asked this question. Do you think we need to restart? No, it'll be fine. What? I wish I'd never asked that. I was somehow able to keep it a secret and made it seem like I had quit on my own. What is it, Nick? You don't look so good. Who does he mean he made it seem like that? Because Desi didn't know he'd quit. Does he mean to the others there? I'm confused. Because who else knows or would care?
Someone who brings harm to their company is fired as punishment. You do well to remember that.
He sure told you.
I don't have a company, Maya, so... So you admit that you stole data from your company, is that correct?
Yes, I'm sorry.
This is a very important fact. Please add it to your testimony. Oh man, this whole thing just took a big turn for the worse, crashed, and blew up.
Well, I mean, he sounds like a jerk, and I wouldn't want him to work for me, but I don't think that means he's a murderer. But yeah, that's kind of alarming.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's gonna take the jaws of life to rip this case from the clutches of disaster. You always say that, Phoenix. It's fine. Okay. Desi doesn't know that. Okay, do we need to bring up Desi? I feel like maybe we shouldn't be poking holes in his own testimony, but... Oops, that's the wrong button. Mr. Delight, what you said just now doesn't match what you told me yesterday.
Huh? What doesn't?
I think you must have been scared. Very scared. Of having a certain person find out your secret.
Huh?
A certain person? Miss Desiree Delight, the defendant's wife.
What? But I... Listen to me. My Desi, she's...
Looks like if I just sit back and relax, the fun will end before it truly begins. Godot! Yes, we know. It was all your wife's fault. What? What do you mean? Mr. Delight stole company data to pay for his wife's spending habit, for which he was fired. Unable to face his own wife, someone used his dirty little secret to blackmail him. And that is how this murder came about.
Oh, I don't really love the misogyny, but I guess I'm kind of impressed that they actually have a motive in mind this time, as opposed to just like, I don't know, he obviously must be the murderer, so figure out the details on your own time, kind of a thing. Like, this is weirdly a step up from usual? That's weird.
No! Everything is falling neatly into place for him!
Don't talk about my Tessie like that! Or you'll be sorry!
Hun, you're not helping. Well, it seems we've learned a great deal of things here so far.
What do you think, Nick?
I didn't think it was possible to get so thoroughly whipped in just 20 minutes. Clearly, there was sufficient motive for murder. He stole data for his wife and killed to protect his secret. A family man who cared just a little too much. The motive is clear. Let's move on. Ah! What happened at the crime scene at 1 in the morning, Mr. Delight? Come now, tell us. We're all ears.
When I entered the office, there was a suspicious shadow there.
That looks like Atney.
Suddenly, I was hit on the forehead. After that, I remember being a bit dazed.
Is that why Atney hit himself in the... But how could he be in 2 places at once? Like, he would have had to be at KB Security at 1 in the morning and at... He would have had to be at KB Security at 1 in the morning and at whatever the Wardley Taylor or whatever is called at 1 in the morning. How could he possibly do both? I have to think.
If I hadn't been wearing that, I would have been killed. When I came to, Mr. Bullard was lying there, dead.
Hadn't been wearing what?
You are a difficult client to protect, honey.
I see. Suddenly hit on the forehead, eh? I believe the detective from yesterday provided similar testimony. He did. He said Master Mouse struck him on the head from behind. Of course, since Atney turned out to be the culprit himself, that was a lie. Why would he make that lie, though? It's so weird. Huh. No one's going to believe a pathetic lie like that. Maybe he was hoping to set Ron up for both things?
Well, what are you saying? I really was attacked.
We'll find out if what you say is true or not during the cross-examination. Got that, Mr. Wright. Don't go easy just because he's your client. If I see an assignment you are, I'll treat you to another cup of my special blend. You're gonna throw it at my face? You don't need to worry about that, Mr. Godot. I have faith in Ron. I know he didn't do it.
This feels more like the way that the Japanese system has been described to me, as like an actual people trying to find out the truth and not necessarily trying to defend their client, but trying to get to the bottom of things. So that's kind of cool that it's a little bit more like that than the previous ones have been. I kind of like that. So that's neat. Alright, I want to know what he meant by if I hadn't been wearing that. That? Could you please clarify what you're referring to? Wait, my Master Mask costume, of course.
What? Wait just a moment. Master Mask?
Huh? Did I forget to mention it before?
Yeah, hun, you did.
Just to be on the safe side, I dressed as Master Mask. Why? And then I descended upon the office of the CEO of KB Security. Why did you go in your uniform? What? Nick, did you know about this? He never told me this.
I don't recall him mentioning to me either. Even I didn't know that. He's steaming. It seems our little friend really loves to keep secrets.
I'm sorry. I just never had a chance to mention it up until now. Wait. That's not right. You know how sometimes things just slip your mind?
Child. Ha! My 6th cup of coffee is staring up at me coldly. At any rate, we can't ignore this new piece of information. Witness, please correct your testimony.
Can we press on that again? Why were you dressed up as Mask de Mask? Why? Because I am Mask de Mask, of course. This child. Of course. Why else? Why else would you God.
What are you talking about? Master Mask's trial is being held next door.
Yes, I guess so. Anyway, at that time, I thought I was being blackmailed over the Mask to Mask issue. So I thought I should go with him, just to be safe.
Oh boy.
Let me tell you, it's a real pain to move around with that cape. That's why it took a lot longer than I expected.
Longer? You took a lot longer? What do you mean by took a lot longer?
Oh, opening the safe, of course. My cape got caught on the safe door, you see. This all happened when I was hiding Mr. Bullard's body.
What was that? Back up a second.
Yes?
You were the one that hid the body in the safe?
Well, yeah.
Inconceivable. Why? What reason could you have had? What were you thinking? Question. When does someone toss their dirty shorts into the washing machine? What? The answer is simple. When they take them off. Okay? What? As usual, I have no idea what you're saying.
Do you mean that Mr. Delight hid the body because he's the murderer?
Ha! You're not as stupid as you look.
His metaphor this time was really obscure.
Mr. Wright, you don't mean... You knew about this whole safe business, do you? Oops.
Well, yes.
Why am I the only one not in the loop here?
That's a fair question.
Witness, make sure you add this to the testimony.
Yes, sir.
Uh-oh. Looks like a storm front is moving in over the fair weather judge. Now who's speaking in metaphor, Phoenix?
I panicked and hid the body in a safe. It took about 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Wait a second. There was a... Okay. The warehouse camera went off at 1. The camera at 1 o'clock. Although those were owned by Atme, so he could have... Time of death was 1 o'clock. The buzzer had no fingerprints on it. The buzzer went off at 1:02. Why?
Objection!
Your Honor, could you please take a look at this record? And what might this be? The record for the emergency buzzer that connects the CEO's office to security. If the button in the office is pressed, a security team is supposed to come running.
And according to this record, the buzzer was pushed once at 1:02 a.m.
What?
If Mr. Rondelite was truly the murderer, he would have ran as soon as that button sounded. After all, a security guard would have been headed his way. Did he get the time wrong?
Objection!
Let's remember who we're dealing with here. He probably had no idea there were security personnel in the building.
No, the whole thing is that he was the security chief.
Objection!
Up until 1 year ago, my client was working as the chief of security. There's no way he wouldn't have known about them.
Objection!
But, as it turns out, the guard never came.
That was nothing more than a coincidence. The fact that the guard was a pathetic loser who had just gotten punched in the face by his ex's new boyfriend and wasn't anywhere in the vicinity was not something Mr. Delight could have known.
Objection!
Again, remember who we're dealing with here. It's a sure bet Mr. Delight didn't even notice the buzzer going off.
Objection!
This buzzer is extremely loud. There is no way he could have ignored something like that. If he had been conscious, that is. So he was knocked out.
Conscious? What do you mean by that? Ugh. Fine. Let's hear your theory.
Maybe Atme pulled the alarm on purpose in the hopes that security would come up and find... Yes, and find Ron there. And when they didn't, what, he had to improvise? But why? Why would you go... Recall the defendant's testimony. The moment he entered the victim's office, someone attacked him. Mr. Delight said he felt dazed. I'm willing to wager he was knocked unconscious for at least a few minutes.
Unconscious? So he fainted?
That's why Mr. Delight didn't know the buzzer sounded. And that's why he thought he had time to hide the body.
What are you trying to say?
Mr. Delight was knocked out, and the buzzer went off soon afterwards. Now, unless my client was able to hit the buzzer while he was unconscious... It can only mean there was another person in that room. That's right. Whoever it is, they knocked out Ron Delight, then pressed the buzzer. So it's gotta be that Atme was trying to frame him. And our friend, the useless one, Larry, didn't come the way he was supposed to. So Atme would have had to come up with a new plan because his framing plan didn't work. Does that make sense? I mean, it's the best I've got. But why would he go back to the... That's the part that doesn't make sense to me. That's the part that doesn't... We gotta figure that one out.
Order in the court! Mr. Wright, this is...
Objection!
This is preposterous. It was this kid. Ron DeLight is the one who killed Kane Bullard.
Objection!
Then who pressed the buzzer? It was the victim, of course. He pressed the buzzer when the defendant attacked him. He didn't die right away. He must have held on long enough to push the button. So Kane Bullard sounded the buzzer himself? What is your opinion on this, Mr. Wright? I need to prove that the real criminal was there at the scene. But how? Can I prove it wasn't Kane Bullard who sounded the buzzer? The defense's opinion is this, Your Honor. This piece of evidence proves it wasn't the victim who sounded the buzzer. It didn't have his fingerprints on it, yeah.
Take that!
I believe this is the piece of incontrovertible evidence you were looking for. The emergency buzzer? Is there some kind of clue on it? Absolutely not. I love the way his face. Hey, come on now. At least give some thought to what you say before opening your mouth. The fact that there are absolutely no clues is itself the clue. Now I'm the one who's clueless. This button has no fingerprints on it. If Mr. Bullard had really pressed it himself, naturally he would have left his fingerprints behind. He food! Ron DeLight obviously wiped them all off.
Objection!
Why would he? A guard could have come in at any moment. He touched the button. I know he did.
Objection!
The defendant, Mr. DeLight, was dressed as Master Mask. And Master Mask always wears gloves. Oh, he does, that's true. What reason could he possibly have had to wipe the button free of fingerprints? He's making a very compelling case. Very proud of you, Phoenix. Order! Order! It would seem. I've been forced to eat crow. I wonder what blend number crow-flavored coffee is. However, if the real killer was there at the scene, why would that person press the emergency buzzer? Oh, hon, I know you are smarter than this. Shouldn't they have run away without putting themselves in extra danger? What's with the awkward silence all of a sudden? Huh. It looks like you're fresh out of parlor tricks.
Oh, come on! This is not hard! Come on! They're onto you, Nick! Just give me a moment to collect my thoughts. They're not onto me! The real culprit killed Mr. Bullard at around 1 a.m. And Mr. Delight just happened to waltz in when the murder was taking place, right? The killer clobbered Mr. Delight and sounded the buzzer. Even though security was supposed to respond right away if the buzzer was pressed. Security was supposed to respond.
Time's up, Mr. Wright. Let's hear what you had to say.
Very well then.
Oh, whoa. You've got some guts. I like that in an opponent.
Why did the real killer sound the emergency buzzer? To call the security guard! The killer knew if they pressed that button, a guard would come running. And that was exactly what they wanted.
Do you mean to say the killer called the guard on purpose?
Yes! He had a patsy, a fall guy right there! Yes! Although, as it turned out, he never showed up. Because he was getting his clock cleaned at the time. Well, could have been worse.
What a touching story. You were saying the killer had a change of heart and called the guard to turn himself in.
No. What is wrong with you people? You are very bad at murder. No, I'm not. When that buzzer sounded, there were 3 people in the office. The victim, Kane Bullard, who was already dead. The defendant, Ron Delight, who was out cold. And the third person, the real killer.
Hypothetically, yes.
Now then, in this situation, if the real killer made an escape, what would happen? The only ones left in the room would be the victim and Ron Delight. And if any security guards came running in that time... they would think I was the murderer. Yes! My God! He gets it! It's kind of sad that Ron is getting it better than the prosecutor and the judge, but... Yes! That was precisely the real killer's objective! To frame Rhonda Light for the murder! He's spitting again.
Order! Order! It would seem. I've been made to eat my words once again.
Yay? I don't know what that means. Actually, you've been made to do a spit take with a cup of coffee. Mr. Wright, who was it? Who was it who tried to frame me? Wait. Wait a second. I'm the one and only Master Mask, so... Nick, you mean the real killer is...
We're going to drag that person in here right now.
But who is it?
Do you really not know, sweetheart? I don't have any solid proof yet, but think about it.
The killer knew Mr. Delight's identity, and they also knew he had been called to KB security that night. So the killer used him to execute a well-crafted plan to murder Kane Bullard.
Now then, let's hear your accusation, Mr. Wright. Who was it that framed Mr. Rhonda Light for the murder of Kane Bullard?
Take that!
Detective Luke Atme is the only one who could have done it. Ace Detective.
Luke Atme?
You mean Master Mask did it?
Your Honor, the person being tried in the court next to us is not Master Mask. At all. He is, in actuality, the true murderer of Kane Bullard.
Order! Order! Mr. Wright, explain yourself!
Gosh, it's almost like it's not a good idea for us to go to trial the next day without researching any of this. Theft and murder. Which is the worst crime?
They're not even close. Murder is the more serious crime, of course. It's a capital crime, subject to capital punishment.
Please remember the trial from yesterday, if you would. When Luke Atme confessed, there was a huge commotion in the court.
Of course. A famous detective was unmasked as, well, masked a mask.
Instead of being convicted of murder, he was found guilty of grand larceny. Although you would think, possibly incorrectly, that it's still a tremendous amount of prison time that he would want to avoid. I would think that. Wouldn't you think that? Like, how long are we talking? Plus, it seemed like they were talking about, like, giving Master Mask the death penalty, which made no sense because he hasn't even killed anyone. But either way, I feel like the grand larceny charge isn't something to be happy about. Better than murder, but still not free. In the sense of, you know, not being locked up. But what do I know? That was his true objective all along. To be found guilty? Master Mask had the perfect alibi for when the murder took place. But how did he do it in time? He was stealing the urn at Lordly Taylor. In other words, being found guilty as Master Mask was Luke Atmey's airtight, watertight, and unassailable alibi. A guilty verdict as an alibi?
You know, it's almost time.
For what?
For Luke Atmey's verdict. It was a pretty simple trial, after all. If we're going to stop this trial and stall that one, we need to do it now.
He's working with us. He's not trying to, like, prevent us or get in our way like Francisco would have done. That's sweet.
Of course. That's assuming you have proof. The detective was the one who committed the murder.
Mr. Luke Atmey's trial has indeed attracted the attention of the entire country. If we were to intrude and fail to provide adequate proof of his crime, Mr. Delight would be left with no grounds for appeal.
We have appeals in this country?
Am I really sure about this?
Huh. A bet's only good when your life's the ante.
Mr. Wright, I believe in you. Oh, honey. That's sweet. Not sure you should. Mr. Delight. So, please, I'm begging you. Thanks, but... my decision will determine the rest of your life. Can I really risk your life like this? Phoenix. What was that? Don't stray, Phoenix. For your client, take the path of trust. That voice. It sounds like the same voice we hear every trial, Phoenix. Mia! Your Honor, the defense requests an immediate recess.
Ha! So that's your answer, huh?
Very well, I've decided as well. This court will take a 20-minute recess.
Mr. Wright, when we return, please summon Luke at me to the stand. Yes, Your Honor.
Why are we still surprised that our dead mentor keeps showing up? Well, Sir Detective Atme.
I have to say, Mr. Payne, you performed splendidly.
Oh no, Sir Detective. You were the one who...
Oh my god! Amazing! Amazing! That's enough. This court sees no reason to further prolong the trial. The court finds the defendant, Luke Atme,
Hold it!
Wait! Don't hand down your verdict yet! Please! Well, well, Sir Lawyer. Welcome to my courtroom. Who's this hoser, eh?
My name is Phoenix Wright, attorney at law. And I wish to file an accusation against this man, Luke Atme. Accusation? You accuse Masked Mask? That man is not Masked Mask. He's just a ruthless murderer.
What?
He's sweating. To be continued. Okay, so I'm terribly happy that it is not Desi's who is the criminal. Her only fault in all this is apparently that of being an irresponsible, insatiable spender. Which I'm not gonna lie, I don't love that at all. Even a little bit. Because there were so many reasons for the family to be in debt and to need money. And I guess they didn't want to make it like a tragedy, so instead it was just like, oh, haha, he's a silly man who is deeply in love with a very silly, irresponsible woman, and together they are silly and irresponsible people. So, you know, I guess they wanted to be, you know, like I said, what's the word I'm looking for? Whimsical instead of serious. But yeah, I don't love that. But I am happy, like I said, that she's not going to be the killer, you know, secretly guilty. That's a bonus. That's yay. So yeah, yay, woohoo! When we come back, we will, I presume, find Luke Atme guilty of murder, which he almost certainly is. So that should be easy enough to knock out. So I will see you guys then. Bye bye.